We often talk about how important teachers are to the future of our children, but do we put our money where our mouths are? Sarasota teachers don't think so. Negotiations on a new deal with the school district have been dragging on for 4 months now. In frustration, teachers recently picketed for the first time in 30 years outside school district headquarters. Some teachers claim they are working 10 to 11-hour days and working second jobs just to make ends meet. And joining us for more is Pat Gardner, president of the Sarasota Classified Teachers Association, Elizabeth DeGenis, education writer for the Herald Tribune, and Kathy Antunes, the host of The Detail on WSRQ Radio. And we should note we did invite the school district to send a representative, but no one was available tonight. Having said that, welcome to you all. And let me start with you, Pat, in terms of where are the negotiations right now? Do you believe you're any closer to a deal?
Well, I think for the first year, which would be this year, we're there. But for the second year, we're stopped at what we call the grandfather teachers, which are 1,600 and something teachers who have been there for quite a while, and they've only been offered a 1.3% raise and a $600 and some bonus.
And correct me if I'm wrong, one of the rubs is that teachers who have been there for 15 years are going to be making about the same amount that new teachers would be coming in at.
Well, I think what it is what's happened is we've had this law for 7 years, and our new superintendent has decided he's got his new, I call it the cockamamie interpretation of it, where grandfather teachers don't get it has to do with the formula is a grandfather teacher cannot get more in a raise than someone on performance, but he's gone into where you can't do a percentage raise anymore. It's got to be a flat amount.
Elizabeth, is that an accurate basically portrayal of what the school district's position is? What are they telling you?
So I think Pat is right in saying that a lot of it comes down to this law that was passed in 2011 that differentiates teachers between grandfathered salary schedule and performance pay. One of the things in the law, it does stipulate that performance pay teachers who are rated highly effective, so that's the highest rating you can be given by the state, they have to make higher raise than any other teacher with the same rating in a different salary schedule.
And this is based upon state law?
Yes.
You know, Kathy, it's so funny, you often hear people saying we don't want mandates from Washington. We don't want Washington telling us how to run affairs at home, but it seems like Tallahassee is telling our local school districts what they can and cannot do on a lot of different things.
Yeah, and it's very confusing as somebody who wants to see teachers being well compensated. We want to keep our schools at high standards. It's one of the reasons I moved here to Sarasota. Having these two different tracks of the tenured and then the performance pay can be very confusing, but if the superintendent is artificially lowering the potential for tenured teachers, it doesn't make sense.
Is that in fact what's happening?
Let's say what she's saying. If there's a formula like that, why doesn't he raise it up and give the grandfather teachers a 3.5% and then put the other ones higher? Why is he starting down here with grandfather teachers? That part I don't understand either. But what the basics are on all this is you're not going to have any teachers. They're leaving in droves. Last year we lost 244. We lost hundreds the year before, hundreds the year before that. Already this year, since July 1st, we've lost 124 teachers.
I want to get into that more in our second segment, but you know, so often when we do shows like this, a lot of people write in to our viewer comments and say, well, you know what, teachers should be paid based upon their performance and not some kind of artificial measure. That's the problem with our public schools at this point.
Well, if they would spend money to do the evaluation correctly, maybe it would have worked, but they started evaluating teachers. They didn't have tests, so they started evaluating teachers on other teachers' performance. So now you might have a PE teacher at one school that's a high-performing school get a school score, and at another school get a low score because they're getting a school score. So they didn't put the money in it to begin with to make the whole evaluation system work.
Okay, we are just getting warmed up, and we'll have much more on contract negotiations between the Sarasota teachers and the school district right after we check the first look at weather. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're talking about the ongoing negotiations between the Sarasota School District and its teachers, and joining us for more is Pat Gardner, president of the Sarasota Classified Teachers Association, Elizabeth DeGenis, education writer with the Herald Tribune, and Kathy Antunes, the host of The Detail on WSRQ Radio. And we'll mention again, we did invite the school district to be here tonight, but they couldn't make it. Pat, where are we at? How much longer can this go on?
Well, it can go on indefinitely, I guess. We meet again Friday. Their head negotiator, which is an attorney from out of town, the last time he was here said he had gone as far as he could go, as far as they'd given him permission to do, and they have not had an exec session since then to talk to him about it. I think Shirley Brown asked today at the meeting, could she have a meeting with him before negotiations and review it, and I didn't hear any answer to that, so I'm not sure what's going to happen if they've already hit the wall.
Elizabeth, where is the school board when it comes to this? I know that they don't like to talk about the negotiations, but are they leading or are they directing the superintendent about what to do here?
I mean, how the process works is that often the superintendent and board discuss bargaining as it comes up in executive sessions. So those are sessions that are closed to the public. As I've said, it's not something that they often talk to the press about, but I would say that a lot of the school board members that I've talked to have indirectly kind of said that they seem like things are going, as they're going, that they're on board with what's happening with the side the district has put forth. Do
they hear the complaints from the teachers? What impact did those protests have on the school board?
So what was interesting is that they had a meeting today, but the last meeting was when the teachers picketed outside of the school board, outside of the landings, the administrative headquarters. There were like almost 500 people outside, and the only school member who at least made a comment to me about it was Eric Robinson, who was there. And then at the actual board meeting, 2 teachers did speak and just kind of said their piece about why we need to be paid more, and nobody mentioned it at the meeting at all. So it was never discussed publicly.
Pat, one of the lines that the school department will put out is that when you compare how much teachers make in Sarasota to the rest of the state, Sarasota teachers rank 3rd in the state in terms of where their salaries are at.
Well, you could compare it to the nation. What are we, 47th in funding in the nation? But we're not Broward County, we're not Manatee, we're not Charlotte, we're not DeSoto. We have to pay a lot more money to live here. I had a first-year teacher apply for an apartment and not get it because she didn't make enough money.
And I have been doing shows about this. In fact, I did a show last week specifically on how difficult it is for teachers, police, and firefighters to live in this area, which is one of the most expensive areas of the entire country in terms of home prices. Kathy, that is the larger context.
Yeah, it's the elephant in the room, and often people look at county politics in silos. They look at the school board and salaries, and they look at the county commission, but these things are connected. We haven't seen effective affordable housing policy come out of the county commission, and in fact what we've seen is affordable housing components get completely eliminated or reduced from big donor developers, who should be held accountable for providing product for the people who work here.
Right. Pat, you mentioned in the last segment that you are you're concerned about the brain drain, so to speak, the number of teachers who are basically leaving. How many teachers are leaving, and at what point does that become a real crisis that you cannot replace them?
I think we've already started a little mini crisis. A lot of our schools have multiple long-term substitutes in classrooms who have been there all year. I don't know how many parents out there, they should go ask and say, is my child's teacher long-term sub, and find out. I'm not even sure if they're keeping track of it in human resources, because when I ask for numbers, they have to go find numbers of how many. I don't know how many are here or how many are there. I think we're just starting out, and I think it's going to be catastrophic eventually. And when you find out you don't have teachers, where are you going to find them? They're not producing them in the colleges. The colleges will tell you they used to have 50, now they have 20 coming out, yearly. So I'm not sure what they're going to do. They're not out there, and if you're not going to pay them, they're certainly not going to stay here, because you can go to Manatee, make less money, but pay a lot less to live, and you come out ahead.
But Elizabeth, we did a story at the beginning of the school year about the teacher shortage in Manatee County compared to Sarasota. Is this something that is on the mind of the school board members again, and are they trying to strike a real balance here?
So I think they're kind of two separate points, whether you agree with that or not. Today, actually, in the school board meeting, they did talk a lot about teacher retention. It's definitely an issue that the district knows about, that they're concerned about. I think in talking with Todd Bowden, who's the superintendent, he has said to me, personally, he said, I want to pay the teachers more, but we can't. I think a lot of this has hinged on this law, however you decide to interpret it, and I think that that's kind of the position that they're sticking with.
So Pat, to really basically explain this to the people who are watching this tonight, how much do you think this is an issue that the school district is almost handcuffed or handicapped by current state law, and how much of this is that you believe that it's very difficult to negotiate with this particular
They
superintendent?
haven't been handicapped for 7 years. I've gone through 5 superintendents myself. We haven't been handicapped for 7 years. No one else is handicapped, only he's handicapped. So what is the common denominator in all of this? It's a new superintendent. So you can draw the conclusions you would like to draw, and I watched them today talk about teacher retention, but Eric Robinson has been asking him to meet with us in a group, a round table, because I've been very concerned about retention, and they know that, and he has not met with us. He has not had any meeting that we are invited to.
Kathy, you have the pulse of the community because you focus on this on your radio broadcast. What is the community talking about and thinking about when it comes to these negotiations and the teachers saying that they need more money and what the superintendent is saying?
Well, in the larger context of what's happened in the past few months, I think that the hiring of a PR firm for $250,000 that was creating fake profiles in social media, this was with public money on the behalf of the school board, left a very bad impression. It was not a good way to start. Now we're seeing a superintendent who's not willing to meet with the teachers union. I mean, it's one thing to have a disagreement, but if you're not even willing to sit down, there's a problem. So, and then there's the larger issues too about the affordability of the community. So I think there's sympathy for what's going on, and we want to see people come to the table.
Elizabeth, that issue really kind of cut both ways because there was a big hubbub about the private PR firm. Now you have a departure in terms of the communication staff from the school district, and they are going to be hiring a new communications director at a pretty generous salary. Meanwhile, these teachers are looking at this and saying, you're tossing a lot of money around. What about us?
Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely the discrepancy and the differences between how much administrators are paid and how much teachers are paid is an issue. I don't know, that's something that I think they talk about, but I think that it's definitely an issue.
The first thing he did when he got here was do an administrative reorganization that cost us $9 million. First of all, if you were afraid of money problems later on, why would you do that right away? And that was the first thing. They have a savings account of $48 million, an 11% fund balance. The state requires a 3% one. We have an 11% one. The district, and I think they're smart about this, years ago said, we're not going to do 3, we're going to do 7. And I don't blame them, because you never know about funding from Tallahassee.
Right, but we have less than a minute left. On one hand, we have a great school district here that gets very high marks, and our kids have excellent graduation rates. But out there's a public perception that there are too many teachers who have been there too long and are not vested in children's success. What would you say to them? I would say you have an A district.
I don't think that's true. I don't believe teachers are out there doing a bad job in those schools. If somebody is, you have a bad principal not doing their job. The fact is we have an A district. That didn't come from school board members or superintendent. And Lori White would tell you that, though, that was done by teachers in a classroom, and they need to be compensated fairly.
Okay, we have to take a quick break, and we'll be back with final thoughts in a moment. And our guest joining us right now for final thoughts. So Elizabeth, this negotiation continues, and it seems like it's become an issue over finding an agreement, but the personalities are now becoming an issue. Is the school board just going to sit back and let this play out? Or at what time, at what point does somebody step in and try to, finish this off?
I mean, either side can declare an impasse. So I think Pat already said this, but it's not something that most people want to have to do, but they can either get a mediator to come in or they can, try to figure things out. I think they both want to figure things out. The thing is that the issue that they're deciding over now is very small in the whole scheme of things and over the different issues that have been kind of on the table throughout these past 4 or 5 months. But I think if both sides won't budge, then it kind of becomes a problem.
So Pat, will there be an impasse, or do you think in the end you're going to reach some kind of negotiated settlement?
I have no idea. You know, I hate to say that because what I think things a lot and the opposite happens, so I have no clue. We're just going to move on, and we're going to pass our referendum because it is one of the most important things we do, and my teachers keep teaching no matter what happens, the staff keeps working no matter what happens, and they'll keep going.
Kathy, how's this playing in the community?
Well, I think there's confusion, like why, you know, it's been 30 years, there's been no picketing, what's happening now, why is this happening now? And there's questions about Mr. Barton. I mean, this isn't a great beginning, but there's also, I think, an appreciation for the larger questions, which are, you know, we build a lot of sprawl in Sarasota County, which doesn't generate enough tax revenue to pay for services, and there's no good affordable housing policy.
Okay, we have to leave it there. But before we go, we want to share with you what some of you had to say about last night's show on the special election for House 72's state seat in the state's House. Who will win? Republican James Buchanan, Democrat Margaret Good, or Libertarian Allison Foxhall? They will all be here on ABC 7 at 7 to debate 1 week from tonight on January 30th. Here is what some of you have to say about the race. Marie says, I want their views on immigration first and foremost. Do you support sanctuary cities? Melanie says, debates don't change my mind. I can tell if a candidate is intelligent and moral just by their party choice. Leslie says, exactly how you shouldn't vote. If you'd like to join the conversation about tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/mysuncoast.com.abc7. And FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. And for the latest on local breaking news, don't forget to download our updated version of our app. If your current app doesn't work, it's because it's expired. Just go to the App Store and re-download it by searching for WWSB or My Suncoast. We want to thank all our guests for being here tonight. Pat Gardner, president of the Sarasota Classified Teachers Association, Elizabeth DeGinnis, education writer for the Herald Tribune, and Kathy Antunes, the host of The Detail on WSRQ Radio.